I've been waiting for this day.
Have you ever had a game that just hit you? That you connected with in ways that you never expected? Hi, my name is Ben, and for me, Xenoblade Chronicles X is one of those games. It came out at a time in my life that wasn't necessarily hard or bad, but was full of lots of little stresses and anxieties that all built up. X gave me an escape. A fantastic world to explore, full of so many interesting creatures and likable characters. It's hard to believe that it's nearly been a decade since then. I've grown and changed so much as a person, but this game still holds a very special place in my heart. The Xenoblade series has grown so much since then, and while that's been great to see, it's been hard to see X seemingly left by the wayside, forgotten on the Wii U. However, I am very happy to say that is no longer the case. The announcement of Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition didn't necessarily catch me by surprise. Those who know me will know that I predicted it very recently, but nevertheless, the announcement filled me with an incredible amount of joy. I can't wait to dive back into the world of Mira. When it comes to content creation, I am a streamer first and foremost. That's what I find comfortable. I'm not a scriptwriter. I can edit a bit, but I'm not a professional editor. I'm not a massive YouTuber who is good at presenting a video. But what I am is an incredibly passionate fan of this series and this game in particular. This announcement has meant so much to me, and I wanted to do something to commemorate it, especially since I am currently on break from streaming and can't really talk about it there. I initially wanted to do a video going over my hopes and wishes, things that I wanted to see in this new remastered version of the game. But I go on holiday in a few days, and writing and editing that would take way too long. So for now, I've settled for something a little bit simpler. More of an analysis/comparison video going through the new trailer. If you do decide to stick around, thank you. I can't promise this video will be pretty or well put together, but it's coming from the heart. I'm going to try and make this video as spoiler-free as possible, as I know there are a lot of fans that haven't played Xenoblade X yet, and I'd like them to be able to take something from this without having some major twist or thing from the game spoiled for them. Aside from the stinger at the end of the trailer, which will warrant touching on some endgame spoilers, the rest of this video will only be going over stuff in the main bulk of the trailer, which is mostly early game stuff from Xenoblade Chronicles X. The section of the trailer prior to the logo drop is bookended by one of the best cutscenes in all of Xenoblade X. The cutscene that plays when Elmer and Cross arrive in NLA. There are also a few other early cutscene shots sprinkled throughout the trailer. There isn't much new info to analyze from these, but I thought it would be fun to put them side by side with the Wii U version to see how they have improved and changed.
Well, here we are. Not too shabby, huh? For a giant beached spaceship, anyway. But, like it or not, this place is our home now. We took the name from the city it was modeled after back on Earth. We call it New Los Angeles. Welcome to NLA.
And so it was that another survivor came to join our band of refugees. Together, we resolved to forge a new way of life here on Mira, come what may. New LA was our beautiful lie to ourselves. Truth is,
The first big thing to talk about here is the new character models. The original X is a very pretty game, but I think its character models are its weak point. They aren't bad by any means, but they do look a little off, even if I have gotten used to them over the years and think they have their charms. Elma had one of the better models, but man, she looks so good here. The overall art style seems to be somewhere in between Xenoblade 1's Definitive Edition and something a bit more detailed and realistic. I think it's a good look for X. It looks closer to the trilogy, while still looking a little less cartoony than the other games. The hair and eyes are where I think they have improved the most. In a recent interview with Monolith Soft about their new R&D team, they mentioned that they were developing new hair rendering techniques, and I think we're seeing them in action here, as the benefit is definitely immediately noticeable. The colour of the eyes seems so vibrant now and really pop. I'm not sure about Cross's face compared to Elma's though. He looks a little off to me, but I don't think it's a massive deal. First of all, Cross is a custom character, so if the player doesn't like how he looks, they can change it. And to be fair, I think the male Crosses have always just looked a little bit off anyway. In general, the game's colour palette seems so much more vibrant and saturated. X, as I've said, has always been a pretty game. I have no issues with the original's use of colour, but man, Mira is really going to pop now. The lighting also seems to have been tweaked and improved. The textures in general seem much less blurry. The resolution of the trailer suggests that we're going to be getting 1080p resolution this time, which should look really nice. And on top of that, pop-in does seem to have been reduced a little bit. LOD models seem to be more detailed in general compared to similar shots in the Wii U version. All in all, the game seems to have had a pretty big visual improvement, and a much bigger improvement than I would have expected the game to get being on Switch 1 rather than having been saved for Switch 2. Now, we're going to move on to the gameplay scenes in the trailer. For these, I want to identify where in the world they are and go there on the Wii U version just to look at how they've changed, as well as point out any interesting things that I may notice. This first shot is in Primordia, specifically on top of the Roof Rock to the east of NLA. We can see Sickle Rock Rise and Talon Rock to the northwest, and the camera pans towards Silent Maya in the north. Nothing too much to say here, just nice to see the iconic skyline of Primordia's mountains again. Next up, we go to Noctilum, near the old dragon-tailed tree and Tatsu's caravan. This shot really shows off how vibrant the game looks now. It looked amazing before, but now it really pops. Our next shot is from the islands between Primordia and Silverlum. This area is teeming with ganglion enemies in the actual game. I think they may have been removed for the trailer. The scale in this shot is very interesting, but it's also in the next shot, so I'll talk about it after that. Next up is Oblivia. We are just north of the Big Ring and are looking through it to the south, high in the sky over Keegan Ridge. We can see Great Washington Isle and the Drowned Ring in the distance. What's really interesting here, though, is the Skell. This is a recreation of the Skell from the original X reveal trailer over a decade ago. It doesn't mean much for the game itself, but it's a really cool reference that they've put into this trailer. Here's a quick look at the skull from that trailer. Back to the gameplay, we go to Silverlum next, specifically on the west half of Lake Ciel, looking northish past a service before turning to look eastwards towards the Delusion Mountains. We can see a few Coronids in the background, as we should. We only see Silverlum in the day during this trailer, but given how much Noctilum was popping earlier, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it looks at night, especially on an OLED screen. It really is a shame that I don't have my own OLED. The next few shots are cutscenes from Affinity missions. We can see the beginning of boss fights against a Jackal and a Sunicula. Specifically, these come from Arena's Affinity mission Renewed Will and Doug's Affinity mission Close Comrades. If you don't know, this is the mission with those weird plant things, whose model gets reused in Xenoblade 2's Love Source DLC mission. Skipping ahead a little bit, this shot of a Skell is from a cutscene in early Chapter 4, where you meet Lao for the first time. We'll be talking about Lao a little bit more later. Now, it's time to talk about our first look at the updated models for Lyn and Tatsu. I don't think this is a cutscene shot, certainly not any I remember. It seems to be very zoomed in gameplay. Honestly, I think she looks great. Lyn's model was definitely one of the rougher ones. It's a bit uncanny, and it drew the game a lot of ire when it was first coming out. Here though, she really benefits from a redesigned face and the new hair rendering. Weirdly though, she seems to have lost one of her Monado hairpins. Not sure why this is. Perhaps we can customize her hairpins? Choose to have one, two, or none? Maybe we could even get some swords from Xenoblade 2 and 3 as unlockable ones, like Pyra's Sword or Lucky 7. That could be an easy way to put in some amiibo functionality. Tatsu is also here. We don't get a proper look at his face, but he looks about as he should. He looks very fluffy, so he's likely benefiting from Xenoblade 3's improvements to knob on fur rendering, and whatever other rendering improvements may have been implemented in Definitive Edition. A far cry from Ricky still having textures for his face, when everyone else got new and improved models. This next shot is absolutely gorgeous. We're back in Primordia, flying over the southern shore of Biano Lake in the west of Primordia, with a gorgeous sunset. The sunsets in X were already beautiful, but they really benefit from the color changes here. Now we're back in NLA with a shot of the residential district just south of the church, looking towards the church and some of the houses. Given the absence of a particularly notable feature from this shot, it's likely this is a very early game shot. We get to see another character next, Lao. I believe this shot of him is from early in Chapter 8, though I could be mistaken about that. He looks good, but he doesn't look as drastically different as Elmer and Lindu. He's got a bit more of a slightly more chiseled jawline, maybe. Although, to be fair, I think he had one of the better models in X anyway. I think this next shot is also from Chapter 8, though to put any fears of spoilers to rest, even though they are from later game cutscenes, they don't really show anything spoilery at all. This one gives us a look at Armory Alley. This area hasn't changed much, but I think the coloured consoles and flashing advertisements definitely benefit a bit from the colour changes. This is basically the end of the trailer. After this, it goes back to the cutscenes from the start. We get that nice shot of NLA, and then we get the logo drop. Not 100% sure how I feel about the logo. It looks mostly how I expected it to, but I think the red on the Definitive Edition text clashes with the blue on the X a little bit. But I'm not going to really spend time complaining about that. It's a very minor nitpick. I'm just happy that we're getting the game at all. What I'm going to be talking about next is going to brush up against spoiler territory. However, I'm going to try and keep it as vague as I can so that I don't drop any massive spoilers on people who haven't played the game before. If you want to play it safe and end your viewing experience here, that's fine with me, but hopefully it should be safe.
Fancy seeing you here.
The clip that we see after the game's logo appears to be entirely new content. It does connect to an existing late game cutscene. I'm not going to say where or when that plays to not spoil it for people who haven't played the game before, but if you are familiar with the game, you know exactly which cutscene it is and the implications of that cutscene being continued. This scene contains new shots that weren't in the base game, a completely revamped and new character model for someone that we barely got to see in the base game, and an entirely new line of dialogue. This is our first indication that we are getting new story content within this remaster, which was later confirmed on, I believe, the UK version of the game's website. Now, I could speculate endlessly about what this new story content will be about, what it will contain. X has a lot of loose ends left in its story. It has a lot of cut story content that all seems very cool and interesting that could be brought back. Plus, there's possible connections to the mainline Xenoblade trilogy to talk about as well. However, we have very little to go off here. Clearly, these two characters, Lao and the Black Knight, or the Hooded Man, or whatever you want to call him, will play some kind of role in this story, and they're the unanswered questions / loose threads that are going to be prioritized. But we have to keep our expectations in check. This isn't a brand new game, this isn't a sequel, this is extra story content as part of a remaster. Future Connected was only quite a small little story, as you remember. There's not going to be time to wrap up every single hanging detail that X has left. I don't think it's worth, at this point, going on and speculating about exactly what the story will be about, because honestly, I would be here for hours. I would spoil the entire game, and I think we'd probably get nowhere. Maybe in the future, after we get another trailer that gives a little bit more away, I might do a video talking about what I expect to cover and other loose ends that might be left loose for a sequel or might be picked up by this story. All I'll say for now is that I'm very happy we are getting new story content, and I'm very happy that we're going to start to get some answers, because this has been bugging me for over a decade. God damn it, Monolith. Tell me what I want to know. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for humoring me with this little video. I wanted to do something to celebrate, and this seemed like something that I could throw together quite quickly. I'm really looking forward to going back to this game, to this world, to these characters, and I hope that those that haven't played it before are excited to experience one of the best games ever made. It's very different to the rest of the series, but if you can get past that and appreciate it for what it is, you're in for a wild ride. I may still do that hopes and wishes video I mentioned, but that's going to take a lot more time and work to make, so I'm undecided if I want to do it. In the meantime, though, no matter what I decide, have a good one, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye!
Incredible. What a stunning view.